Welcome back. My name is Matt Beatty. This is Hidden Light, and there's a bunch of new people. So welcome to the new subscribers who magically showed up since our recent giant platinum palladium video. This is the place where I talk about printmaking and sometimes photography and just generally do platinum palladium stuff. Today, I'm going to be making a much smaller print than last time, only 20 by 40 inches, which is still a respectable size and happens to be the perfect size to go right above my bed. I was proofing this panorama recently in a video that you'll see eventually, and I've been kind of vibing it, and I made some edits and adjustments and I think made it slightly more better, and I think it would fit perfect above my bed once my darling wife lands on the new headboard that she wants. There are choices, and I am not in charge of interior decorating. Not my job. But I do like this picture, and I like where I was in the headspace that I was in when I shot it, so we're going to make a print. 20 by 40 inches. Today we're going to be in pure palladium, which is kind of my default. It is not expensive to print in pure palladium compared to using lots of platinum. And the warmth, I think, is an interesting juxtaposition in this wintry scene. So that's what we're up to. Also, today's episode is brought to you by the fact that I shot a masterclass for the last 2 years. And so if you want to learn how to get into platinum palladium printmaking, you've been on the fence about it, this masterclass that we spent a huge amount of time making is available for purchase online and is discounted, like $800 off until the end of 2025. So if you need to give yourself a Christmas present, because you deserve nice things, or if you have somebody who wants to spend a reasonable amount of money on you, send them the link below, hiddenlightllc.com/masterclass, and learn how to make platinum palladium prints yourself. Ha! Sounds like fun. Okay, well, assuming that you don't want to be making your own prints today and you want to watch me make one, here's what's up. This is an image that I shot. I've made just brief edits between the most recent round of proofs that I did and what I'm going to take bigger. Actually, let me show you. Take a tour through the studio here real quick. Shazoink. Okay, this is the pure palladium proof that I did most recently, and it's close. You watch the camera just totally freak out as it adjusts to the exposure in here. It doesn't look quite that bright. It looks maybe a bit more like that. Anyway, it's a little gray, and this area is a little hot. But aside from that, I like the contrast. So what I did is I took this tone and I boosted it quite a bit. And then I dropped this white just a skosh so that it's slightly less egregious. So the whole thing will be slightly brighter. And then that is a 14-inch test. Oh no, my last sheet. Bye-bye, Arsh. It's kind of like moving from 35mm SLR film to 8x10 large format view camera. It's the same thing. You're still taking pictures, but everything is slower, everything is more difficult, more futzy, and you have more chances to ruin things, even though you're doing effectively the same thing. That's what making a 40-inch print looks like. This sheet of paper is 44 inches long and 30 inches tall. So we're going to snip off a few inches here just so that it's easier to handle and I can get everything squared away. And then of course the negative won't go all the way to the border because that would be terrible. And while I trim that, I will start my negative in the printing process. 30 minus 24 is 6. So I'm going to take 6 inches off the top of that. That's the size of the print we're going to make. Very respectable size. So here's my image with soft proofing turned on. So soft proofing off, soft proofing on. Here's the one that I printed last time, and then here's the edited version, so just kind of up just a little. And I built myself an action in Photoshop to make this negative. So what it does is it builds a new curves adjustment layer. It puts in my custom made curve for this printer with this process, and flattens the image and inverts it and then flips it horizontal. So if I go here and press play, and then of course that's with softproof turned on. If I turn the softproof off, this is what the negative will actually look like, which is great. Man, it reads real weird in negative, doesn't it? 40 is kind of my limit. I mean, I could take it to 42, but there's kind of no point. So this will be a 18.5 by 40 inch print at about 400 ppi, so I could push it further, but then I run out of paper. And they make paper bigger than this. I just don't want to make a really big print today because they're so expensive. Great. So then I go to my print settings. It's fun. And we're going to choose 24-inch Pictorico by 44-inch Pictorico, which gives it a little bit of room to print. And then there are all kinds of settings that I'm using currently to print this in ABW, which is excellent. By some miracle, Epson has fixed their driver with modern Macintosh operating systems. I have been waiting years for this, but they fixed it to the point where it remembers my settings. So thank you, Epson, or Apple, or whomever was in charge of this. It remembers my settings now, and that's amazing. The settings for this particular negative process that I built, which I built between good calibration methods, is I'm printing it in Epson Advanced Black and White mode. And then I set the darkest tone. I set the printer to use more magenta and yellow ink, which blocks UV better. And I set it to give me a little bit higher color density. And that enables me to get the contrast range that I want out of these negatives. So this is what my negative will look like. It's going to take forever to print because it prints unidirectionally. So we'll let it print while I'm over here trimming paper and coating paper and doing all that. $11, $12, $13. If this is overkill, that is generally a good thing. Overkill never hurt nobody. 10. There. If I'm lucky, 3.5, 3.5. That's mostly centered. Now these are just a guideline, right? Nothing matters if I coat beyond this. Nothing, actually a lot of it matters if I coat less than this far. But that's going to be my guideline to myself. So I've got a nice moist brush, moist but not too moist. I've got an absurd amount of chemistry. And I still like to start in one corner and kind of work my way around. So typically, because I'm right-handed, I start top right and I work my way around and across. Often I will use a large brush, but today we're going to use the 3-inch Huahong brush. And let's just go for it. I like to define my edges. Give myself kind of an idea of where the edge of the picture will be. Rough them up a little so that the chemistry doesn't sit in one spot for too long. Just go for it. In the case of this particular image, I have a lot of busyness that happens in this picture, and it happens kind of vertically. So I'm going to start my coat working mostly horizontally, and then do a lot of the working in of the paper vertically. Get those drops sometimes. You just run away, gotta work on them, work them in. Slow down as you move large volumes of chemistry. That's a good idea. And then what tends to happen, especially if you have kind of low humidity, which I have today, is that one side of the paper will be almost dry while you're still coating the other side. So that's happened to me. This side is dry already, or very close to it. So what I'm doing is kind of running my excess from the still wet side over to the dry side. If you get like hairs or dust or whatever, it's fine. Not a big deal. Because you'll be able to just wipe it off when it's dry. Just making sure that I actually have the edges all the way around. Might not. The big ones are definitely more difficult. Those 40 by 60s you saw me do in the last, that big video with Ryan's images. I mean, that takes me 5+ minutes to do a coat, and it's nerve-wracking and expensive, and I have to try really hard and put on loud music and chase it down. So out of 13 milliliters, that's at least half decent coat, and I do have some emulsion left over. This gets put into a pre-mix chemistry bin for when I just want to make like little baby prints or tests later. And then to make sure that I don't end up totally ruining this, I'm going to turn off the overhead lights, which might have a chance at fogging it. Yes, I could have turned them off earlier, and no, it doesn't actually matter if they're on for a little bit. It does matter a lot if they're on all the time. By the way, 10 out of 10 recommend these just galvanized panels. They're for doing ductwork, so they're relatively inexpensive and they're perfect for making a proofing board or a drying area or whatever. So we'll let these guys dry for a couple of minutes. Flip it over. Right in the middle. Drop the table down. And then most importantly, turn on the vacuum so that everything gets pulled flat. Doesn't take very much time to pull the majority of that out there and just flatten things down a little. 12.5 inches of mercury is not a great vacuum, but it's pretty good. Put 5 minutes on the timer. Maybe for Christmas, I will finally install a timed power switch on this unit. But until then, the old smartwatch will get it done. Then, importantly, if the timer hasn't run out on the vacuum, turn the vacuum off. These are 30 by 40 trays that I get from B&H, and they're hilariously expensive. And the paper almost fits. It's so close. It's close enough, generally. All right. Okay. How are we looking? Looking all right? Okay. 1, 2, 3. A little bit of agitation. Shoo! That looked pretty good. If it looks a little dark here, that's a good thing. Your first print in the developer, like right here, should look darker than you kind of want it to be, especially if so much of your print is highlight tone, because these are like kind of a muddy yellow now. And as we clear the print, the yellow will lift out and we won't see it quite so much. I think my edits here did exactly what I want, and I think this size is correct, and I hate that. I hate that size matters. I hate that I'm the guy who wants to make small prints because small prints are accessible and they can be beautiful and they're great to give as gifts and they're less expensive and. But with some images, presence is a thing and size gives you presence. You can't get a feel for this path when the print is this big. You have to stick your nose in it in order to get a sense for it. But when it's this big and I frame it with a 4-inch mat all the way around and in a nice big dark molding, it will have gravitas. It will have presence in the room, and that matters, especially for an image like this. So we're going to put him over here. Of course, the developer is infinitely reusable, so you reclaim as much as you can. And start the clearing process. It's funny, I've noticed something on photography YouTube recently. There are people who hang out in the comments and hype you up and talk about how cool it is to see the thing, and those people are amazing, and we love having those people around, and thank you if you are those people. And then we also have the trolls who will show up in YouTube comments, and I noticed this in some of my videos, and then also recently I've been noticing it in others, anyone who talks about printmaking. And there are a few people. You go to their channel, you watch the video, and then there will be somebody who's like, man, sure is a shame to waste all this material on making prints of shitty pictures. You suck as a photographer. Maybe you should make prints that don't suck of pictures that are actually good. And you know what? If you're one of those people, go fuck yourself. Nobody needs that negativity. That's just rude. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. And you know what makes art art? The people who look at it. And if I decide that this picture is art because it makes me feel a thing, then you can't tell me that it's not. The same way that I can't tell you that it is art if you don't think that it is. Both opinions are valid, but also if you got to be mean about something, just don't say nothing at all. Nobody wants to talk to you. It's gotten to the point where, you know, there's this bias effect where you see 35 good comments and you're like, yeah, sick. And you see one troll trolling around and you're like, man, I hate this person, and you want to respond in all caps and ruins your afternoon thinking about what an asshole that person is. So I don't even look at the comments anymore. Alex, the video guy, looks at the comments because I'm too much of a fragile snowflake to look at people trying to be mean to me without responding. So it's like, come on, man. Just be nice or don't do anything. If I was in charge, I would just block those people. But Alex says that they're good for the algorithm, even when they're trolling. So, fine. Fine. I'll accept it. Feels good to make prints for me. Tell you what, not something I do that often anymore. I'm into it. Maybe what'll happen eventually is that I'll, because the Masterclass now is devoted to 11 by 14 inch prints, which is great. Maybe eventually I'll add a section of how to make larger prints now that you've mastered, special edition of the Masterclass, the Experts edition. I think that would be fun. And of course it will be included with the price, like I've said, or at least I've written on the Masterclass website, like any changes that I choose to make, any additions, any new content that I film for the Masterclass is included. So if you buy it now while it's on sale, then the stuff that I add to it over the next year or however long is included. And if you buy it in a year when it's not on sale anymore, or actually like in a month, when it's not on sale anymore, all that stuff is still included. You just pay double for it, which is great. Actually, I'm into that. Feel free. Anyway, I'm going to continue clearing this print. I've got my AirPods in. I'm going to be watching some YouTube videos and kind of back and forth and clearing prints, and then we'll hang it up and see what it looks like when it's dry. Thanks for playing along. Check out the Masterclass. It's nice to have you. It's nice to be back on YouTube. For those of you who are curious, I shot this on my Fuji X100VI as a panorama of 5 frames because the lens is like a 35mm equivalent or something, and it wasn't nearly wide enough for this. So I just focused at one spot and sent it. Easy breezy. And the details, like, astonishing. Even given that I probably shot it at f2, because that's the way that I am. Yeah, surprisingly good. Cool.